Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Rapid Process Improvement, or RPI, High Impact, Remotely Delivered. I'm Candace Collins with Signavio, and I'll be your moderator today. Erin Maranka is a value-driven individual with more than 20 years experience in business process management and information technology alignment, strategy execution, training, and change management. She has expertise in leading multiple functional teams while meeting aggressive business objectives and is adept at addressing the ever-changing business environment, turning issues into solutions. She is a systematic thinker and knows how to organize people and activities into efficient workflows. Erin also leads BPMD's US operations activities. She is committed to producing results that exceed expectations, and we're really excited to have her with us today. I wanted to share just a couple of logistics with you. You'll see a question box on the right side of your screen, and you can enter questions there as we go. We'll answer as many questions as time permits at the close of our formal session, and we'll get back to you after the session should we run out of time to answer all of your questions. You'll receive a recording of this webinar within a couple of days. And finally, once you end your session, you'll receive a short survey, and we'd very much appreciate you taking a minute or two to complete that, as your feedback helps us to continually improve our webcast for you. And now, Erin, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Candace. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. A little over 2 years ago, BPMD was contacted by a major insurance company that was undergoing significant digital transformation to reduce costs and enable scalability. They were experiencing difficulties in defining business case for rollout of a digital platform, as business and IT could not agree on a realistic business case. They also could not gain agreement between profit centers on a standardized approach. This lack of process transparency really stagnated the implementation efforts, and the pilot implementation of this digital platform had been delayed due to these issues. Their executive management was very concerned about that slow progress. This presentation today will walk you through our approach as we partnered with this client to drive value and realize fast results remotely. From a presentation overview, we will look at 3 specific topics: process improvement, what's different today, rapid process improvement in practice, and high impact remotely delivered projects. So, what is different today for organizations when they want to transform and improve their processes? Well, for one, they have to shorten time to value. Organizations today are faced with a lot of change. In order to stay competitive, they must improve rapidly in order to be successful. Organizations must align business and IT. Organizations must be transparent in their processes. Business and IT must work together in order to address the requirements of today's projects, as nowadays most transformation projects have a digital aspect. It's imperative that business and IT do not stay siloed any longer, but work together to achieve business goals. As organizations have grown so rapidly, with many locations, products, divisions, they must learn to be inclusive and efficiently integrate. This can be done through remotely delivered initiatives. We must leverage remote capabilities and tools like Signavio, not only to address our current situation, but to address businesses' global reach. Therefore, we must be prepared to deliver projects remotely with cloud-based tools and pragmatic project approaches. Okay, so here begins the what we did and the how we did it. In order to have a rapid improvement, it's important to focus on what matters most. Research actually shows that companies only compete with about 15 to 20% of their processes. These high impact processes are key targets for improvement. These high impact, low maturity processes are the ones that organizations should focus on to target the best value for realization. Here's the how. So how we go about identifying them is through a process impact assessment, where you would link your level 3 processes to the different value drivers. Value drivers represent an organization's strategy. Then you quantify the impact to identify the 10 to 15% in which we focus on. In this way, we address what matters most during the transformation initiative instead of trying to boil the ocean. So once you have identified your focus, which is what we have just done with the process impact assessment, now it is important to understand the state of your processes as they are today. The first step is to capture and structure the as-is information about these processes and do that as efficiently as possible. The processes should be readily available in a shared location rather than being documented on an individual's desktop, as an example. This requires a centralized structured repository like Signavio, which is cloud-based and easily accessible. One of the reasons why you start to capture as-is processes and not just jump right into your to-be design is the topic of change management. Capturing your as-is processes allows you to set the stage and then analyze where you are going. Then, how best to get there with the right execution of information and training. Also, capturing your as-is processes allows you to create the right business case with detailed information. This gives you the opportunity to see into your processes, not just from a business lens, but also from an IT lens, and therefore aligns both business and IT, making a smoother conversation and therefore a faster agreement. We specifically used a tool like Signavio as we were able to quickly capture the as-is processes within a repository and then had them visualized for subject matter expert interviews, in which we then gained insight into improvement opportunities. These improvement opportunities are also visualized here in this picture within the as-is processes, which we then utilized for further discussions with stakeholders. The reason why this approach and visualization of the as-is processes and improvement opportunities is so powerful is because it's the beginning of what our clients' tomorrow can be. This is the true value, as it takes away the blinders of the unknown. You no longer have to worry what can be eliminated, what can be automated, what can be altered or moved. You now have a roadmap into your future. And as you can see from the picture right here, we identified some improvement opportunities, allocated them to the tasks, and then created a legend for them for our future discussions. So if we look at the case study thus far, we have one, focused on what matters most by defining the right processes, which are the high impact, low maturity processes. And two, then we captured the as-is processes. Now what we need to do is create a reference model. Here specifically in this case study is an Uncork-based software reference model. A software reference model can capture common and best practices of organizing any given process so that they leverage the capabilities of the software effectively. The reference model can be either company specific to roll out and standardize your processes, or technically it can be company independent to enable the use in different organizations. Here specifically, we created the reference model using BPM-N and a swim lane approach as we did with the as-is processes. Therefore, we were able to create 2B processes from that, not from just a blank sheet of paper approach, but with a good solid starting point to begin our discussions. Those discussions then had specific information like what tasks to change or eliminate based on variations of product lines or regions, as an example, instead of being vague conversations between business and IT. Then the reference model could be adjusted according to those specifications of the product lines or regions. So we have then captured solid to-be processes. We use reference models as accelerators of process improvement and transformation initiatives. By doing this, we actually accelerate the time to design within a project, as having a reference model reduces project costs and time by an average of 50%. It also reduces implementation risk and improves quality by leveraging common practices. So here's where the fun begins. We have captured our as-is processes. We created our reference model, then we created our 2D processes from the reference model. We then captured attribute details for this example of the as-is and the to-be processes to begin our analysis. Based on project requirements and using the capabilities within Signavio, you can drive specific data into valuable results. For this specific example, we were tasked with acquiring baseline analysis of the as-is and to-be processes, specifically meaning what is the initial change between them. So we also conducted a simple and pragmatic simulation between the as-is and the to-be processes. And then we analyzed some of that data to drive cycle time analysis and scalability. Conducting this type of analysis shows the organization just what the business and IT impacts can be. Therefore, you can create a solid business case with both business and IT alignment. Providing transparency with process models and driving value with analysis depicts the specific places in which change can occur. However, this change has detailed data behind it. So if you can see here in the picture, we have our as-is processes, our to-be process as an example, and what we were able to define for our clients was an overall percentage of yearly savings, a monetary percentage of yearly savings for this implementation for to-be, and yearly savings in hours. And then we also identified for this example some manual versus automation tasks, which was very powerful for our points of contact. As we just saw on the last slide from the results of a project analysis, the results of such analysis can drive change within an organization, but also allows for a more robust and concrete conversation, especially between the business and IT. No longer can IT or business hide behind what ifs or potentials, but with real data, they can dive into the tomorrows of organization and make decisions about what to attack first. This example, again from our insurance case study, depicts a baseline analysis of the as-is processes versus the to-be processes, where we also utilized an automation tool alongside the business's improvement opportunities. As you can see, there is significant improvement in overall automation versus manual tasks, the elimination of some roles, and a reduction of IT systems. This type of analysis becomes the basis for communication and leading the organization change and addressing things like competitive edge, change management, training, re-engineering, and innovation. Process simulation, cycle time, and scalability is usually the wow effect within the project, as here's where our clients see what they can actually do and what options they have as they move forth within their implementation project. What this example shows for scalability is how much more the client can handle. How many more transactions can they conduct? They now have the choice as to how to implement this. They can hire more people, or they can implement the full automation of the process. Again, as one, they now have transparency into their future processes with detailed information, and two, they also now have specific data. Therefore, they can start the conversation to make those changes to the organization they most believe impact, as well as communicate that information to the business. In order to make any of that happen, we now need to create work packages to realize value. In a rapid improvement approach, it's important to define improvement actions like executable work programs and define the activities to develop an execution plan. I like the details. This part is fun. It's not appropriate to create work packages that cannot be executed unless a team of 10 has 18 months to deliver them. Work packages, also referred to as value packages, should be defined on a short-term, actionable, and accountable basis and drive in terms of value. The normal duration is about 3 to 6 months. However, the specific insurance case study we've been discussing as work packages, they were only about 6 to 12 weeks in duration as we delivered them. Work packages should be clearly defined with expected outcomes, what are the benefits of impact to both business and IT, what are the accountable resources, and who's the main point of contact as examples. The work that you do in defining these work packages pays off in the expected management of the outcome, as you clearly communicate the intent and value of the project. In order to use the data in the most appropriate way, we must structure it in a repository like Signavio that also offers collaboration capabilities. A very simple approach to this establishing an operating model, which can be seen here in the picture. We have taken the insurance example and through subject matter expert interviews, captured the level 1 to level 3 processes. With Signavio collaboration capabilities, once you have this information structured in the repository, you can then ask additional stakeholders for feedback, which can then be incorporated into your processes with edits, revisions, and attribute data. The value of this type of approach is not just in its transparency, but also in the structure which makes navigation and reporting quite easy. The integration of a structured repository with business and technology aspects makes the information availability in a digital, dynamic process repository even more beneficial. Organizations today have grown not just domestically, but internationally, with multiple product lines, functional areas, and divisions. Initiatives must allow for this diversity and have an inclusive approach. In order to do this, we utilize cloud-based tools like Signavio and the BPMD application. The case study I have been discussing today, not only was I personally a part of, but when this project began a little more than 2 years ago, I actually lived in England. The client had multiple locations between the Midwest and the Northeast in the US, and our analyst was located right outside of Philadelphia. Although I would love the opportunity to meet my client face to face, we were able to drive all project objectives and goals on time without ever stepping foot at any of the client locations. The entire project was delivered remotely. As long as we have a systematic approach to these types of initiatives and have access to cloud-based tools that offer communication capabilities, then there should be no difference in the quality and the delivered value of the project. However, there will be a reduction in project costs, as no longer will there be major project expenses. So again, this is the fun part, as I love the details of implementation, but don't worry. For today's presentation, I will only offer a few hints of the how-to for remote consulting, specifically the differences. The first is to consider, plan, and prepare. Face-to-face projects have the ability to be more fluid in nature. However, in remote consulting, planning specific roles and responsibilities with detailed assigned tasks while conducting virtual workshops or meetings is very important. Therefore, all of the remote projects our team conducts prep calls and review FAQs, and will also have a plan B to address any virtual types of advanced, say, troubleshooting. Communicate. I cannot stress this enough. For remote consulting, we over-communicate to ensure all parties and information is clearly stated and understood by everyone. We reach out before planned workshops and meetings to prep participants. We even reached out via LinkedIn before workshops. Therefore, people get to know us. Educate. Most of our clients don't know the language of BPM. Therefore, we take the time to always add enablement to our projects. All projects are a journey we must go on together. No matter the length of the workshop or meeting, we add enablement in the beginning, as it sets the stage for a better experience. You can't rely on body language or eye contact any longer. And deliver. As time is more critical during remote delivery, we conduct all workshops and meetings within the appropriate tool. We also only deliver workshops between an hour and a half to an hour and have multiple deliveries instead of longer 4-hour workshops. So, what are the key takeaways from this webinar? We don't want to boil the ocean. Therefore, we must focus on what matters most. And we do this by identifying those high impact, low maturity processes. We capture our as-is processes, and then we created a reference model to accelerate process improvement and to create the to-be processes. We then captured attribute data in order to conduct a simple and pragmatic simulation between the Asis and 2B processes, which quantifies improvements that can be significant. The results, for example, were a reduction of tasks, IT systems, and roles. We also looked at results for cycle time and scalability, which were driven from the simulation data. And then we created work packages. As today's challenge is not coming up with new ideas, it's in the execution of and moving those ideas into action and driving value. Lastly, we need to be able to deliver this remotely, to be able to adapt and to address the growing requirements of our clients. If you would like to know more about BPMD, please visit our website as we have many more publications, articles, case studies, and content. I thank you for your time and attention today, and now I will open up the floor for questions. Candace?
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Erin. I love how your case study showed a real life example of the analysis and transparency between the Asis versus the 2B, or as you called it, where the fun begins. So you can hear your passion. This is wonderful. We had one question just came in. I had a couple teeing up. 1 second here.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll see if you can answer this one. What Signavio license is needed for the simulation analysis that you performed for your client?
It would be the process manager as well as simulation. And I'm not sure if there's a Signavio person on the phone, but we use process manager and simulation from a license perspective.
Yep, got it. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another one. Any tips for helping to determine the maturity level?
From a company's maturity level, absolutely, we can do a maturity assessment, and you really want to look at your processes and analyze them specifically. Not really sure what you mean by tips for that. It's a little bit more involved than that, but you really want to look at, do you have a BPM tool? Do you have a BPM culture? So you want to ask yourself some of those questions and where you might fall within them.
Oh.
And this is related to this too, Erin. You just mentioned culture. What about cultural change? How does this approach address the people side of things?
Oh, sure. That's a great question. In reference to that, everything about from your Asis to your 2B really has to do with change. One of the things that we say when we go through processes is it's not just in capturing the information, it's in putting it into a tool like Signavio into that repository. One of the things that I tell people is the information that you put into the repository is information that you can get out of the repository. And the reason why that is so powerful is the fact that you can get it out, 1, quickly, and 2, for multiple audiences. So when we're talking about change management, especially, we'll take this example, we were able to, during the process, look at the Asis and 2B and run reports in reference to, well, what were the roles that changed between the Asis and 2B, and quickly be able to give that to our points of contact. We were able to run reports within Signavio that said, well, what were the IT systems that changed within the project between the Asis and the 2B, and then be able to give that to the points of contact. So what that does is that starts those change management conversations in reference to the information that either the business has to communicate to a role that says, these are some things that are changing in reference to how you do your job, or between business and IT with regards to how they might want to set up training for applications or something like that, as example.
And then there, I think we've talked a lot about the fact that they're then speaking the same language too, which is great, so they can get things done quickly. Okay, good. Okay, another question. We're currently implementing a pricing tool in different business units with different levels of success. Can your approach be explained or helped here?
Can our approach explain or help there? Absolutely, in reference to different business units getting different success. So yes. So with regards to that, when you're looking at an implementation of a tool and you're looking at different business lines, and so maybe one business line has been very successful, but the other business line has not been very successful. We've actually experienced this at clients' sites. and our points of contact are always like, why? One of the things that we've seen is that although a tool might be implemented, how well was it implemented? Was it communicated correctly? Were the people trained correctly? So one of the things that we do is when we look at the implementation, when we look at those as is and to be processes, one of the experiences or examples that we had specifically with one client was one organization. It wasn't a pricing tool, it was a different type of automation tool. But one area, their cycle times were very reduced, whereas another business line, it hadn't really changed between before and after the implementation. So when we went in to actually help with this analysis and transparency between the as-is and the to-be, what we noticed is the process actually never changed after the implementation. So what they were doing was the exact same process, and at the end of the process, they uploaded the information into the new tool. So we started the conversation between business and IT to find out from a culture perspective, some of the people were a little bit afraid of the technology. They needed to do a little bit more training. So we were able to uncover from an improvement opportunity perspective, what were some of the pitfalls in reference to the implementation so that we could help them with that cycle time to be more successful as in that other business line. And I'm sure that could be the same within your pricing tool example.
Yeah, I'm sure they found that very useful.
It's very interesting, yeah.
Interesting and truly cultural too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, here's another one. Were they, the reports you showed using Signavio, were they custom reports or do they come native with Signavio?
The two reports that I was speaking about in reference to the change management for getting out, they were just regular reports that came out of Signavio. So there are some reports that just come straight out of the box with Signavio. The change management reports that I just discussed in reference to the roles and IT systems, they're straight out of the box. However, Signavio, you can also create custom reports. So for example, some of the clients that we work with, we've created customized attributes based on the requirements of the project. When we create those customized attributes, different audience members might want to see them in different consumable ways. So what we'll do is we'll create a customized report that will then help that audience member or stakeholders to be able to consume that. The people that we work with, so our subject matter experts, we try and enable them in business process management. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody speaks business process management or that their boss or carrier or anybody else like that understands what a BPMN is or swim lanes. So Signavio really does give you the ability to go in and customize the information that you've put into the tool in a manner in which that you can get out of it in a way that other audience members can consume this information to be more applicable to answer their questions.
And this is somewhat related to on that, what you were just talking about too, Erin, is does Signavio have functionality to track KPIs?
Yes, so you can put KPI information within Signavio. You can track that information. You can also visualize that information. So Signavio has visualization capabilities. So I know that one example within the presentation, I was showing you how we visualized improvement opportunities. You can also customize some of the visualization. You can customize your KPIs. You can track your KPIs. You can define them within Signavio. And then you can also report on them, which means you can get that information out in different ways for your audience.
Super. Okay, for the analysis of the as-is process, did you add the shapes that identify improvements in Signavio or with a different tool?
We actually used a visualization within Signavio. It was not a different tool.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay. With the current situation right now, how can I relate recovery plans on processes referencing to change management?
I'm sorry, say that one again.
Okay, with the current situation right now, how can I relate recovery plans on processes referencing change management?
Referencing change management. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I know when you're looking at your as is and your to be processes and change management, between the past experience and what we're going through now, we have dealt with some hospital systems and what they're dealing with, as an example. And from a change management perspective, one of the things that we've also used with Signavio is the training abilities. So people's processes in general, based on the current situation that we're looking at right now, their processes have greatly changed. So no matter what they're doing, and I brought up the hospital system specifically, just based on some clients as well as family members that I'm dealing with that drastically have had their processes changed. And if they had captured this information in a repository like Signavio, they would very quickly be able to manage that from a, well, how do we change that now, number one, to be able to quickly identify how to communicate that to the community. And then two, also for people that are in remote locations, because everybody is, how do we then communicate that change? And you can do that, one, because Signavio within the collaboration hub is cloud-based. You can also get feedback with what's working, what's not working, and that's, you know, dynamic. So you can incorporate that in, because, you know, our current state yesterday is a little different than our current state today, which might be a little bit different than our current state tomorrow. So you need something that is dynamic within your processes to address this. And then also for training too. So if something's working, you can say, hey guys, this is what we're doing. It's really working for a lot of people, and roll that out so that they have access to it, between what they should be doing, what's really working with people, and then you're constantly getting that feedback. So I hope that addresses it from a high level, I guess, from your as-is processes and how to really utilize as-is processes, looking at to be and change management, and then really using a tool like Signavio and its capabilities to communicate that while we're all in this virtual world.
Exactly. I mean, you made it very real with the example, you know, what people are going through absolutely in healthcare, but also realizing, wow, we really do need processes in place and a place to have everyone be able to see them. So that was super. Okay, here's another. How do you handle situations where the cycle time for a process step is variable, say between 1 and 10 days to complete one step? How do you model this for cost and time analysis?
Cycle time for cost and analysis. Okay, say that one more time. I just took notes on it.
Sure. How do you handle
It's a little
long? How do you
I'm
handle
always honest with my audience. I'm like, I got part of that.
Okay. How do you handle a situation where the cycle time for a process step is variable? So say between 1 and 10 days to complete a step.
Mm-hmm.
How do you model this for cost and time analysis?
Oh, okay. All right. So when you model something out between your as-is and your to-be processes, that's a little different from an analysis perspective. So when you model that out, there are things within Signavio that allow you to do time delays. So there is timing information within Signavio that allows you to do that. So that's the first thing. So again, the first step is how you model something is a little bit different than how you analyze it. So then when you take this information and then you transfer it into the simulation tool, when you're looking at those simulation parameters, all right, what you really want to do is you're really doing a lot of calculations in reference to that cycle times between the 1 and the 10 days. So it's not just, the one thing that I want to make sure is really clear within simulation is it's not always just cut and dry. We don't want to look at our processes like, oh, it's just black and it's white and that's it. There's a lot of variables. So when we go through a simulation process, when we go through cycle times, when we go through scalabilities, we're working with a lot of analysis and a lot of different numbers. So we would take that into accountability between the 1 to 10 days, and we might approach it. So the information that you saw here today within our cycle times and our scalabilities, we had things like that. And we did cost averaging, we did averaging of execution times, we did averaging from a lot of the different information that we got. And from a subject matter expert perspective, this is where we gathered that information, so that between 1 to 10 days cycle time, we would actually put that in from an analytical perspective. We would analyze the 1 day, we would analyze the 10-day, we might do some touch points in between to really figure that out, but we would provide the data between the 1 and the 10 days as well. It wouldn't just be like, well, if it's 1, we just cut it off there. There's a lot of different analysis. I know from some of the slides that you may have seen, it looked very like black and white, but there were a lot of different conversations that we had with the client too. We have pure execution time, which is if things just go straight through. And then we also have handoffs. How long does it take to get a response from somebody? We have a lot of conversations with our subject matter experts, and we roll up our sleeves and really try and get to know that process. So without a lot of detail, I hope that satisfies that question. But we really do, from a modeling perspective, we try and put as much attribute details to satisfy the process as possible, so that timing, if it's a timing information, would specifically be in that model, and then that would get analyzed during the simulation, which would then lead to the cycle time. And then even in the cycle time analysis, we would actually look at that very specifically between a 1 and 10 from an average, and then again have additional conversations with our subject matter experts.
Are the goals for this type of rapid process improvement approach only about efficiency, such as cost and time, or can it also support other goals?
No, I know a lot of the information that we provided here were specific to cost and timing information, but it can technically be quality or compliance or customer experience as an example. Technically speaking, the insurance case study started out as a customer experience specifically for their underwriters, and then it just grew from there based on their additional requirements. So the goals of a rapid process improvement is really just based on what the project goals are, but it doesn't necessarily have to only be just cost or timing type of things. That we did go a little bit into the cost and things like that today, but no, we really do align the goals up with the project and what the client's looking to achieve.
Wonderful. Good, good, good. Well, that's a great way to end. We very much appreciate you being with us, Erin. It was very useful and timely. So thank you so much. As when you leave, please take a moment to complete our quick survey if you don't mind, and you will get the recording within a couple of days, as I mentioned, and we'll follow up with you in case you have any questions that we didn't get to or didn't arise while we were chatting. So thanks to everyone. I hope you have a really good rest of your day.
Thanks everyone for your time. I really do appreciate it. Have a great day.